A new friend, Jake, had been living on the streets for a few months now. He had lost his job, his apartment, and his family in a series of unfortunate events. He had no one to turn to, no one to help him. He felt alone and hopeless. Every day, he would sit on the same spot, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Homeless Hungry." He hoped that someone would spare him some change, some food, or some kindness. But most people ignored him, or looked at him with pity or disgust. He felt invisible and worthless. One day, as he was sitting on the ground, he noticed a small green bowl next to him. He looked around, but he didn't see anyone who could have left it there. He picked it up and saw that it was filled with some kind of soup. It smelled delicious and warm. He wondered who had given it to him, and why he decided to eat it, since he was starving and cold. He took a sip and felt a surge of gratitude and happiness. The soup was the best thing he had tasted in a long time. It was rich and creamy, with chunks of chicken and vegetables. He savored every bite, feeling his strength and spirits return. He finished the bowl and looked for a note or a clue to thank the person who had fed him. But he found nothing. He shrugged and thought that maybe it was a random act of kindness from a stranger. He felt a glimmer of hope in his heart. The next day, he found another bowl of soup next to him. And the day after that, and the day after that. Every morning, he would wake up to a fresh bowl of soup waiting for him. He never saw who left it there, but he felt a connection with them. He felt like someone cared about him, someone wanted him to survive. He started to look forward to his daily soup, and he began to smile more often. He felt more optimistic about his situation, and he started to look for ways to improve it. He applied for some jobs, he cleaned himself up, he made some friends among the other homeless people. One day, as he was eating his soup, he heard a voice behind him. "Hi there." He turned around and saw a young woman standing there. She had long brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a friendly smile. She was holding a camera in her hands. "Hi," he said cautiously. "I'm sorry if I startled you," she said. "I'm Anna. I'm a photographer." She pointed at the wooden wall behind him. "I've been taking pictures of this wall for a project I'm working on. It's very interesting, don't you think?" He looked at the wall and saw that it was covered with graffiti and posters. Some of them were political, some of them were artistic, some of them were funny. "Yeah, I guess so," he said. She nodded and smiled. "I've also been taking pictures of you," she said. He blinked in surprise. "Me? Why?" She shrugged. "Because you're interesting too. You have a story to tell." She showed him her camera and flipped through some of the photos she had taken of him. He saw himself sitting on the ground, holding his sign, eating his soup, smiling at something. He felt a mix of emotions: curiosity, embarrassment, anger. "What are you doing with these photos?" he asked. She looked at him with sincerity. "I'm not trying to exploit you or anything," she said. "I'm just trying to capture the reality of life on the streets. The hardships, the struggles, but also the hope and the humanity." She paused and smiled again. "And also because I like you." He felt his face heat up. "You do?" She nodded. "Yes, I do. You seem like a nice person. A good person." She reached into her backpack and pulled out something. "Here," she said. "This is for you." She handed him a green bowl. It was the same bowl that he had been eating from every day. He looked at her in shock. "It was you?" he asked. She nodded again. "Yes, it was me." He stared at her in disbelief. Why? Why did you do this? She shrugged again. Because I wanted to help you. Because I wanted to make you happy. She smiled softly. Because I wanted to be your friend. He felt tears well up in his eyes that he didn't know what to say. He looked at her and saw kindness and compassion in her eyes. He looked at the bowl and saw love and generosity in her gesture. He looked at himself and saw hope and possibility in his future. He smiled back at her and took her hand. Thank you, he said. She squeezed his hand and leaned in closer. You're welcome, she said. They hugged each other and felt a connection that they had never felt before. They had found a new friend. Sure, I can try to tell you more about Jake's life. Here are some details that I imagine. Jake is 32 years old. He used to work as a mechanic in a garage, but he was laid off when the business closed down due to the pandemic. Jake had a wife and a daughter, but they left him when he couldn't pay the rent and they had to move in with his wife's parents. He tried to stay in touch with them, but they stopped answering his calls and messages. Jake has a sister who lives in another city, but she doesn't know about his situation. He is too ashamed to tell her the truth. He hopes that one day he will be able to reunite with her and his daughter. Jake likes to read books and listen to music. He sometimes goes to the library or the park to borrow books or use the free Wi-Fi. He also likes to play chess with some of the other homeless people he has befriended. Jake has a dog named Lucky that he found on the streets. Lucky is his loyal companion and protector. He shares his food and his blanket with him. Lucky makes him feel less lonely and gives him a reason to live. Yes, Anna did help Jake find a job. She used her contacts and connections to get him an interview at a local newspaper. They were looking for a photographer's assistant, and they were impressed by Jake's skills and enthusiasm. Jake got the job and started working with Anna. They became a great team and a great couple. Jake was able to save enough money to rent a small apartment and buy some new clothes. He also contacted his sister and his daughter and told them about his new life. They were happy for him and proud of him. He invited them to visit him and meet Anna. He felt like he had a second chance at happiness. Jake's first assignment at the newspaper was to cover a story about a local charity that was providing food and shelter to the homeless people in the city. Jake and Anna went to the charity's headquarters and interviewed some of the staff and volunteers. They also took pictures of the facilities and the people who benefited from them. Jake felt a personal connection with the story, since he had been in a similar situation not long ago. He wanted to show the reality and the dignity of the homeless people, and also the kindness and generosity of the charity workers. He wrote a heartfelt article that accompanied Anna's photos. The article was published on the front page of the newspaper and received a lot of positive feedback from the readers and the editors. Jake and Anna were praised for their work and their empathy. They felt proud and fulfilled. They also donated some of their money to the charity, as a way of giving back and saying thank you. They hoped that their story would inspire others to help and support the homeless people in their community. Jake's sister and daughter were very happy and relieved to hear from him and to see his new life. They had been worried about him and had missed him a lot. They apologized for not being more supportive and understanding of his situation. They said that they loved him and that they were proud of him. They also liked Anna and welcomed her into their family. They visited Jake and Anna in their apartment and spent some quality time with them. They also met Lucky, Jake's dog, and played with him. They had a lot of fun and laughter. They felt like they had reconnected with Jake and that they had a new friend in Anna. They promised to keep in touch and to visit more often. They hugged Jake and Anna and thanked them for inviting them. They said that they were happy to see Jake happy. Yes, Anna and Jake had many more adventures together. They continued to work as a photographer and an assistant at the newspaper, and they covered many interesting and important stories. They also traveled to different places and explored new cultures and landscapes. They took many beautiful and inspiring photos and shared them with the world. They also volunteered for various causes and organizations that they cared about. They made a difference in the lives of many people and animals. They also had a lot of fun and romance. They went to concerts, movies, restaurants, museums, parks, and other places. They enjoyed each other's company and learned more about each other. They also adopted another dog, a female named Lucky too, who became Lucky's mate. They had a happy and adventurous life together. They loved each other very much. Anna and Jake inspired others to help the homeless people by sharing their story and their photos with the public. They showed the reality and the humanity of the homeless people, and also the hope and the possibility of change. They also showed the kindness and the generosity of the people who helped them, and how a simple gesture can make a big difference. They encouraged others to donate, volunteer, or simply be more compassionate and respectful towards the homeless people. They also supported and promoted the charity that had helped Jake, and other similar organizations. They raised awareness and funds for their cause. They also mentored and befriended some of the homeless people they met, and helped them find jobs, housing, and counseling. They gave them a chance and a voice. They made them feel valued and appreciated. They changed their lives for the better. Lucky too got along very well with Lucky. They were both rescued from the streets by Anna and Jake, and they had a lot in common. They were both loyal, friendly, and playful. They loved to run, chase, and cuddle with each other. They also loved to go on adventures with Anna and Jake, and to meet new people and animals. They were very happy and grateful to have a home and a family. They were the best of friends and the perfect companions for each other. They also had some puppies together, who inherited their parents' traits and charm. Anna and Jake kept 2 of them, and gave the rest to some of their friends and colleagues. They had a big and loving family of humans and dogs. They were very lucky indeed. Lucky too had 6 puppies, 3 males and 3 females. Anna and Jake named them after some of their favorite things and places. The names were Rocky. He was the biggest and strongest of the litter. He had a brown fur and a black nose. He loved to climb, jump, and wrestle. He was very brave and adventurous. Coco, she was the smallest and cutest of the litter. She had a black fur and a white spot on her chest. She loved to eat, sleep, and snuggle. She was very sweet and gentle. Sunny, he was the brightest and happiest of the litter. He had a yellow fur and a brown spot on his eye. He loved to run, play, and laugh. He was very friendly and cheerful. Luna, she was the smartest and most curious of the litter. She had a white fur and a black spot on her ear. She loved to learn, explore, and solve puzzles. She was very clever and creative. Paris, he was the most handsome and charming of the litter. He had a gray fur and a blue collar. He loved to flirt, dance, and impress. He was very confident and charismatic. Ruby, she was the most beautiful and elegant of the litter. She had a red fur and a pink bow. She loved to dress up, pose, and shine. She was very graceful and glamorous. They were all adorable and lovable, and they brought a lot of joy and fun to Anna and Jake's life. The puppies grew up to be healthy and happy dogs. Anna and Jake kept Rocky and Coco, who became their loyal and faithful companions. They also took them to work and to their travels, and they were very popular and admired by everyone. They also gave the other 4 puppies to some of their friends and colleagues, who loved them and took good care of them. They also kept in touch with Anna and Jake, and sometimes they would arrange playdates and reunions for the puppies and their parents. They were all part of a big and loving family of humans and dogs. They had a wonderful life together. The most memorable adventure that Anna and Jake had with their dogs was when they went to Alaska to cover a story about the Iditarod, the famous dog sled race. They had always wanted to see the race and to experience the beauty and the challenge of the Alaskan wilderness. They took Rocky and Coco with them, and they also rented a sled and a team of huskies. They followed the trail of the race, taking pictures and interviewing some of the racers and the spectators. They also camped in the snow, fished in the ice, and watched the northern lights. They had a lot of fun and excitement, but they also faced some dangers and difficulties. They got lost in a blizzard, they encountered a bear, and they fell into a crevasse. But they managed to overcome all the obstacles, thanks to their courage, their skills, and their dogs. They also helped some of the other people and animals they met along the way. They completed their journey and their story, and they returned home with a lot of memories and stories to tell. They also made some new friends and fans, both human and canine. It was an unforgettable adventure that they would always cherish. Yes, Anna and Jake visited many other countries in their travels. They went to places like France, Italy, Japan, India, Brazil, and Australia. They explored the culture, the history, the nature, and the people of each country. They took amazing photos and wrote captivating stories. They also enjoyed the food, the music, the art, and the fun of each country. They learned a lot and had a lot of fun. They also made some new friends and fans, both human and animal. They loved to travel and to discover new things. They were always curious and adventurous. They were happy and fulfilled. That's a hard question to answer, because they visited so many beautiful places. But if they had to choose one, they would probably say that the most beautiful place they visited was New Zealand. They went there to cover a story about the conservation of the native wildlife and the natural beauty of the country. They were amazed by the diversity and the splendor of the landscapes, from the mountains to the lakes, from the forests to the beaches. They saw some of the most unique and fascinating animals and plants, such as the kiwi, the kakapo, the kauri, and the pohutukawa. They also met some of the most friendly and hospitable people, such as the Maori, the indigenous people of New Zealand. They learned about their culture, their history, their language, and their traditions. They also participated in some of their activities, such as haka, poi, and hangi. They had a lot of respect and admiration for them. They also had a lot of fun and adventure, such as bungee jumping, skydiving, kayaking, and hiking. They took stunning photos and wrote an inspiring story. They fell in love with New Zealand and its people. They considered it to be one of the most beautiful places in the world. Yes, Anna and Jake did write a book about their travels. They decided to compile some of their best photos and stories into a book, as a way of sharing their experiences and their insights with the world. They also wanted to inspire others to travel and to explore, to learn and to grow, to help and to love. They titled their book, A Journey of 1,000 Miles, Adventures and Encounters Around the World. They published it with the help of their newspaper, and they also launched a website and a blog to promote it. They received a lot of positive reviews and feedback from the critics and the readers. They also sold a lot of copies and made a lot of money. They donated some of their profits to some of the causes and organizations that they had supported in their travels. They also used some of their money to fund their next travels and projects. They were very proud and happy with their book. They considered it to be one of their greatest achievements. The most popular story in their book was the one about their visit to South Africa, where they covered a story about the Wildlife Rescue and Rehabilitation Center. They met some of the most amazing and endangered animals, such as lions, elephants, rhinos, and cheetahs. They also met some of the most dedicated and passionate people, such as the veterinarians, the rangers, and the volunteers. They learned about the threats and the challenges that the animals and the people faced, such as poaching, hunting, habitat loss, and disease. They also learned about the efforts and the solutions that the center and its partners implemented, such as anti-poaching patrols, education programs, breeding programs, and relocation programs. They also participated in some of the activities and tasks that the center performed, such as feeding, cleaning, medicating, and releasing the animals. They also bonded with some of the animals and the people, and they formed lasting friendships with them. They took incredible photos and wrote a moving story. They also raised awareness and funds for the center and its cause. They were deeply touched and inspired by their visit to South Africa. They considered it to be one of their most meaningful and memorable stories. The most exotic food they tried in their travels was the fried tarantula in Cambodia. They went there to cover a story about the ancient temples and the modern culture of the country. They were intrigued by the history and the beauty of the country, but they were also curious about the cuisine and the customs of the country. They heard that some of the locals ate fried tarantulas as a snack or a delicacy, and they decided to try it for themselves. They went to a street vendor who sold them, and they bought one each. They looked at the hairy and crispy spiders, and they felt a mix of fear and excitement. They took a bite and tasted the crunchy and salty flesh. They were surprised by how good it was, and they finished their spiders with gusto. They also took a picture of themselves eating the spiders, and they posted it on their website and blog. They received a lot of reactions and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a humorous and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most adventurous and funniest stories. Anna and Jake did have some accidents during their travels. They were not always lucky and safe, and they sometimes faced some dangers and injuries. Some of the accidents they had were they got food poisoning in Mexico, after eating some street tacos. They spent a few days in bed, feeling sick and miserable. They also missed their flight to their next destination, and they had to reschedule their plans. They got robbed in Brazil, after walking in a shady neighborhood. They lost their money, their passports, and their camera. They had to go to the police station, the embassy, and the bank to sort out their problems. They also had to buy a new camera and some new clothes. They got bitten by a snake in India, after stepping on it in the jungle. They had to rush to the nearest hospital, where they received an antivenom injection. They also had to stay there for a few days, under observation and treatment. They got caught in a storm in Australia, after sailing on a boat. They had to abandon their boat and swim to the shore, where they were rescued by some locals. They also lost their boat and some of their belongings. They got arrested in China, after taking pictures of a restricted area. They had to explain themselves to the authorities, who confiscated their photos and questioned them for hours. They also had to pay a fine and apologize for their mistake. They had some bad luck and some scary moments, but they also had some good luck and some funny moments. They always managed to overcome their difficulties, thanks to their courage, their skills, and their dogs. They also learned from their mistakes, and they became more careful and prepared. They also appreciated their good times more, and they became more grateful and humble. They considered their accidents to be part of their adventures and their stories. The most dangerous animal they encountered in their travels was the polar bear in Canada. They went there to cover a story about the effects of climate change on the Arctic wildlife and environment. They were fascinated by the beauty and the fragility of the Arctic, but they were also aware of the risks and the challenges of being there. They heard that some of the polar bears were starving and desperate, and that they could attack humans if they felt threatened or hungry. They also heard that some of the locals had guns and traps to protect themselves from the bears. They were careful and respectful, and they followed the advice and the rules of their guides and hosts. They also wore bright colors and made loud noises, to avoid surprising or attracting the bears. They also kept their distance and used their zoom lens, to take pictures of the bears without disturbing them. They also had their dogs with them, who could sense and warn them of any danger. They thought they were safe and prepared, but they were wrong. One day, as they were walking on the ice, they saw a large male polar bear coming towards them. He looked hungry and angry, and he had blood on his fur and his mouth. He had probably killed and eaten another animal, but he was still not satisfied. He saw Anna and Jake as potential prey, and he decided to attack them. He ran towards them, roaring and snarling. He was fast and powerful, and he was not afraid of anything. Anna and Jake saw the bear too late, and they panicked. They tried to run away, but they knew they couldn't outrun him. They also tried to scare him away, but they knew they couldn't intimidate him. They also tried to reach for their guns, but they knew they couldn't shoot him. They felt helpless and hopeless. They also saw their dogs barking and growling at the bear, trying to protect them. They felt proud and grateful for their dogs, but they also felt worried and guilty for putting them in danger. They wanted to save their dogs, but they didn't know how. They thought they were going to die, and they hugged each other. They said goodbye to each other, and they said sorry to their dogs. But then, something unexpected happened. They heard a gunshot, and they saw the bear falling to the ground. He was hit in the chest, and he stopped moving. He was dead. They looked around, and they saw a man standing on a snowmobile. He had a rifle in his hands, and he had a smile on his face. He was wearing a fur coat and a fur hat, and he had a beard and a mustache. He looked like a typical Canadian. He waved at them, and he shouted, "Hey there! Are you guys okay?" They nodded, still in shock. He drove closer to them, and he introduced himself. "Hi there. I'm Bob. I'm a ranger here. I saw the bear chasing you, so I decided to help you out." He looked at the bear, and he shook his head. "That's a big one. He must have been very hungry. You're lucky I was here." He looked at their dogs, and he smiled. "Those are some brave dogs you have there. They tried to fight off the bear for you." He looked at them again, and he asked, "So, what are you guys doing here?" They told him who they were and what they were doing there. He nodded, and he said, "I see. Well, you're doing a good job. The world needs to know what's happening here." He paused, and he said, "But you also need to be more careful. The Arctic is not a place for amateurs. It's dangerous and unpredictable." He paused again, and he said, "Come on, let me take you back to your camp. You need some rest and some warmth." He helped them get on his snowmobile, along with their dogs. He drove them back to their camp, where he checked on their condition and gave them some food and drinks. He also called his colleagues, who came to collect the bear's body. That he stayed with them for a while, chatting with them about his life and his work. That he also gave them some tips and some warnings about the Arctic. That he also gave them some compliments and some encouragement about their photos and their stories. That he also gave them some jokes and some stories about his adventures. That he was friendly and helpful, funny and wise. They liked him a lot. They thanked him for saving their lives. That he shrugged it off. He said, "Don't mention it. It's part of my job." He smiled. He said, "Besides, you're not the first ones I've saved from a bear." He winked. He said, "And you won't be the last ones either." They laughed. They felt relieved and grateful. They had survived their encounter with the most dangerous animal in their travels. They had also met one of the most interesting and kind people in their travels. They had another adventure and another story to tell. They considered it to be one of their most thrilling and touching stories. Anna and Jake did meet some celebrities in their travels. They met some famous actors, singers, writers, and athletes. Some of them were Tom Cruise. They met him in Hollywood, where they covered a story about the movie industry and the Oscars. They interviewed him about his latest film and his career. He was very friendly and charming, and he invited them to join him for a helicopter ride over the city. They accepted, and they had a lot of fun and excitement. They also took some selfies with him, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a witty and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most glamorous and funniest stories. Beyoncé. They met her in New York, where they covered a story about the music industry and the Grammys. They interviewed her about her latest album and her career. She was very gracious and talented, and she invited them to join her for a concert at Madison Square Garden. They accepted, and they had a lot of fun and awe. They also took some pictures with her, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a catchy and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most musical and awe-inspiring stories. J.K. Rowling. They met her in London, where they covered a story about the book industry and the Harry Potter phenomenon. They interviewed her about her latest book and her career. She was very kind and clever, and she invited them to join her for a tour of the Harry Potter studios. They accepted, and they had a lot of fun and wonder. They also took some photos with her, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a magical and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most literary and wonderful stories. Cristiano Ronaldo. They met him in Madrid, where they covered a story about the soccer industry and the World Cup. They interviewed him about his latest game and his career. He was very confident and skillful, and he invited them to join him for a training session at the Real Madrid stadium. They accepted, and they had a lot of fun and challenge. They also took some photos with him, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a sporty and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most athletic and challenging stories. They met many other celebrities in their travels, but these were some of the most memorable ones. They enjoyed meeting them and learning from them. They also enjoyed sharing their experiences with the world. They were very lucky and happy. The most dangerous sport they tried in their travels was the bull running in Spain. They went there to cover a story about the culture and the tradition of the country. They were curious and adventurous, and they decided to try it for themselves. They went to Pamplona, where the famous festival of San Fermin took place. They joined thousands of other people who ran in front of a herd of bulls through the narrow streets of the city. They wore white clothes and red scarves, and they carried newspapers and sticks. They ran as fast as they could, dodging and jumping over the bulls and the other runners. They felt a lot of adrenaline and fear, but also a lot of thrill and joy. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the bulls, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a daring and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most risky and exhilarating stories. Anna and Jake did not have any supernatural experiences during their travels. They did not encounter any ghosts, aliens, vampires, or zombies. They did not witness any miracles, curses, or prophecies. They did not visit any haunted houses, crop circles, or ancient tombs. They did not believe in any superstitions, myths, or legends. They were rational and skeptical, and they only trusted in science and logic. They also respected and understood the beliefs and the customs of the people they met, but they did not share them. They preferred to explore the natural and the real, rather than the supernatural and the imaginary. They considered their travels to be amazing and extraordinary enough, without needing any extra spice or mystery. They were happy and satisfied with their experiences. The most beautiful mountain they saw in their travels was the Matterhorn in Switzerland. They went there to cover a story about the nature and the adventure of the country. They were impressed and enchanted by the beauty and the majesty of the country, but especially by the mountain. They saw it from different angles and distances, and they marveled at its shape and its color. They also climbed it, with the help of a guide and some equipment. They reached the summit, and they felt a lot of pride and awe. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the mountain, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a stunning and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most scenic and breathtaking stories. Yes, Anna and Jake did have some scary moments during their travels. They were not always safe and comfortable, and they sometimes faced some dangers and fears. Some of the scary moments they had were they got lost in a maze in Egypt, after exploring the pyramids. They wandered around for hours, trying to find their way out. They also encountered some traps and some mummies. They felt a lot of panic and dread, but also a lot of curiosity and wonder. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the maze, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a puzzling and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most mysterious and fascinating stories. They got chased by a shark in Australia, after diving in the Great Barrier Reef. They saw some of the most beautiful and colorful fish and coral, but they also saw a big and hungry shark. He followed them and tried to bite them. They swam as fast as they could, trying to escape him. They also used their camera and their stick to scare him away. They felt a lot of terror and shock, but also a lot of admiration and respect. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the shark, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a thrilling and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most exciting and terrifying stories. They got kidnapped by a cult in Japan, after visiting a temple. They met some friendly and polite people who invited them to join them for a ceremony. They accepted, but they soon realized that they were part of a cult that worshipped an evil god. They tried to escape, but they were caught and tied up. They also witnessed some rituals and sacrifices that were horrifying and gruesome. They felt a lot of horror and disgust, but also a lot of pity and anger. They also used their camera and their stick to free themselves and to fight back. They also called the police, who came to rescue them and to arrest the cult members. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the cult, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a shocking and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most disturbing and outrageous stories. They had some bad luck and some scary moments, but they also had some good luck and some funny moments. They always managed to overcome their fears, thanks to their courage, their skills, and their dogs. They also learned from their experiences, and they became more brave and wise. They also appreciated their good times more, and they became more adventurous and humorous. They considered their scary moments to be part of their travels and their stories. Yes, Anna and Jake did have some romantic moments during their travels. They were not always busy and stressed, and they sometimes had some time and space for themselves. Some of the romantic moments they had were they had a candlelight dinner in Paris, after visiting the Eiffel Tower. They ate some delicious and fancy food, and they drank some fine and sparkling wine. They also listened to some romantic and soothing music, and they danced under the stars. They felt a lot of love and happiness, but also a lot of passion and desire. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the dinner, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a sweet and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most romantic and delightful stories. They had a hot air balloon ride in Turkey, after exploring the Cappadocia region. They saw some of the most stunning and surreal landscapes, but they also saw each other in a new light. They also felt some of the most gentle and refreshing breezes, but they also felt each other's warm and tender touches. They felt a lot of awe and wonder, but also a lot of affection and intimacy. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the ride, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a beautiful and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most scenic and sensual stories. They had a beach picnic in Hawaii, after surfing on the waves. They ate some tasty and healthy food, and they drank some fresh and fruity juice. They also listened to some relaxing and cheerful music, and they played with their dogs on the sand. They felt a lot of fun and energy, but also a lot of comfort and harmony. They also took some photos and videos of themselves and the picnic, and they posted them on their website and blog. They received a lot of likes and comments from their followers, some of them positive, some of them negative, some of them funny. They also wrote a cool and informative story about their experience. They considered it to be one of their most fun and cozy stories. They had many other romantic moments in their travels, but these were some of the most memorable ones. They enjoyed spending time with each other and expressing their feelings for each other. they also enjoyed sharing their experiences with the world. They were very lucky and happy.